that. All right, thank you, Manuel. Thank you for the recording. Yeah. All right, awesome. So I'll be sharing my screen briefly and turn off my camera so we can focus on the presentation. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so today I'll be basically giving us an overview of what Microsoft Power Platform it's all about, right? And also where to connect to where Mr. Sally have actually started discussing one of the Power Platform, which is actually the Power Automate. And one of the reasons why we actually included this as part of our training was this. Um, During the course of our research, we find out that jobs opportunity that requires a Microsoft 365 engineer sometimes require you to know Power Platform. So the major difference between a Microsoft 365 engineer and a modern workplace engineer is your knowledge of Power Platform, right? It's actually make it to stand out in the market. And I could remember earlier the week someone reached out to me, a recruiter from one of the European organization for a role. The role was a Microsoft 365 engineer in brackets Power Platform. So that means for a modern workplace engineer, you're expected to not just know the M365 side of things, talking about the services, Exchange Online, Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive for Business, the Intra ID. Um, some of them expect you to also know things around Power Platform, the Power Apps, the Power Automate, the Power BI, as well as the Copilot Studio and the Power Pages. 1 second. So also basically shows what are the components of Power Platform, then look at the value of using Power Platform to create business solutions, then leveraging on different Microsoft products and services, then how AI can be used with Power Platform. So this is basically an introduction course for us to just connect to where um, Mr. Stanley started. So if you're looking at Power Platform itself as a solution, Power Platform is actually a product, right? It's a suite of products just like Microsoft 365 that has the SharePoint, the OneDrive, the Microsoft Teams, Exchange Online, right? Power Platform is is actually a SaaS application too, like M365. So it has the following components in between. So you can see it has a Power BI. So recently, Power BI has been moved out, right, to Microsoft Fabrics because they wanted anything that had to do with data to be together. So Microsoft has the Microsoft Fabrics solutions for the data platforms engineer. It can be either a data analyst, data scientist, data engineer itself, right? So Power Platform has been, the Power BI has been removed, but it is still because the name is still Power. So we still tend to categorize it as a Power Platform. So we have the Power Apps, which is actually the one that is responsible for building custom business applications, right? Use it to build custom business applications for organizations, while the Power Automate, which is all started to basically around to automate business processes. So this actually used to be called the Microsoft Flow before. That's the old name before. They used to call it the Microsoft Flow, but Microsoft rename it to Power Automate. Then in this category, the Power Pages is actually like the newest in this category. So this is just like using your WordPress for your website, basically. It is also sitting on the Power Apps. Why the Copilot Studio? So the Copilot Studio used to be called the Power Virtual Agent, right? To create chatbots, right? So Microsoft renamed it because during the 2024 Microsoft Ignite, Microsoft announced that they are integrating a lot of features with it. So because of that, they renamed the products from Power Virtual Agents to the Copilot Studio. So some other components are the Power FX. So if you're familiar with Microsoft Excel formulas, right? If you're familiar with it, so Power FX is just like Microsoft Excel formula too. You can use Power FX in all the applications, in Power Apps, in Power Automate, in Power Pages, right? Then the database is like a storage. You can liken it to a storage in form of a table where you have the rows and the column where data are actually stored. So any data from Power Apps, Power Automate, you can use as a the centralized storage. So for what Microsoft did with connectors, they allows you to connect to a lot of third-party applications. So Microsoft is big on collaborating with other organizations. So with connectors here, you can use it to connect your business applications, right, with third-party applications. So they have what we call the AI builder. So the AI builder is also like an AI system before the Copilot Studio, right? That they were using to also build up solutions on the business application. So Microsoft Power Platform is actually a part of the business application. It's a part of the business application, right? Then we have the managed environments, which is actually like the foundational identity security, the compliance of the Microsoft Cloud. So managed environments speaks to, so it has a relationship with your the Microsoft Entra ID, the security portal, the compliance portal, which is currently refers to as the Microsoft Purview. So for since they are Microsoft Cloud solutions, right, there's a need for them to, you have to check compliance, you have to check security, and you have to check some other stuff, right? So that is actually what the Microsoft Power Platform is. So the reason why we are introducing at least these two parts, I want to cover these two parts as part of our series, the Power Automate and the Power Apps, so that again, you can see from the demo that Mr. Sally had with us the last week and the last class, right? How you're able to use the Microsoft Forms, which is part of M365, use the SharePoint, which is also part of M365, right? With those solutions in M365, you're able to, use them with the Power Automate. Now, for Microsoft Power Platform, right, it has a lot of business values, because I remember in my previous organizations, we have a lot of business applications, right? You want to talk about maybe invoicing systems and HR systems. We want to talk about things about bidding, we use this application. In fact, even for some internal training, right? They leverage on Power Platform for such training. They leverage the Power Platform component for such training. Why? Because it is actually easier for users to be able to build search, especially if you are what we call a citizen developers. So a citizen developer is actually somebody that can actually use the Power Platform, right, without needing to code. You can create solutions with your Power Platforms and you don't need to code. Why a pro developer? So there's a part of the Power Platform that actually requires coding. Because if you ask Microsoft will tell you that Power Platform is actually a low code, no code environment because they are trying to encourage people to become a citizen developers. By the time you jump into the Power Apps class and with Mr. Stanley, you see that you can create a Canvas apps, you can create a modern revealers without writing a single line of code. But for we call them pro developers, right? They tend to use some programming language like the X++, C# language, right? with inside the Power Platform to create some advanced custom functionality for the Power Platform. But that is not that's not our focus for this. This is just to ensure that you move from becoming just an end user, right, to use those applications to becoming a citizen developer, where you'll be able to build your own custom applications, where you'll be able to build your own flow, basically. So for the business value, it's easily adapt to changing workforce expectation by delivering custom, collaborative, and digital experience. So a lot of things that organizations do today, right? There are some things that can actually or easily be delivered using a custom application. I remember one of the projects I worked with in the past, right? The user needs to be putting some data, right? Filling the Microsoft form, putting those data being saved in the SharePoint, right? So it is just why not create the front end of these to be a Power Apps, such a way that even on your phone, you can once you have the Power Apps installed and you sign in with the organization credential, you can enter the data, and the data as you're entering those data, they are being saved in a SharePoint. So the idea is just to ensure that your organizations or users in your organizations, they have this digital experience. Things that they need, they could be using a manual process for in the past, they can use a digital solution and something that they will get to like over time, right? So for our generation generally, as millennials and even as Gen Z come to represent most of the workforce, right? So there's a need for organizations to adapt to fit the way they work. So they grew up in the world of tailored experience and collaborating through social media, so to best apply their ability. So what organization needs to do is to be able to deliver more custom, streamlined, and collaborative data experience. So organizations have to really adapt to that, and also to become more agile by quickly building solutions based on your organization rapidly changing needs, right? So historically, right, most solutions can take months to build and to also roll out. And once they are deployed, it can take another weeks to implement every minor changes. So now, organization, we are in a fast-paced environment, so we don't have that luxury again. So business strategies and needs change rapidly. So organizations need to be able to quickly build solutions based on those changing needs. So that's where Power Platform comes in. With the help of Powerhouse, Power Automate, Power Pages, you can rapidly build solutions. I remember building an intranet site with a Power Page for an organization. So it only took me 24 hours to build with a Power Page, because the one of the business requirement changed at the point of going live. They said they needed this particular features Power Page. So I had to deploy something for them. And because it was something I was familiar using with WordPress before, so something I was able to do with with the help of the Power Page. And there's also need to reduce extra costs that is associated with custom application by leveraging the low code and the no code. So this has actually come to scale. Why? Because the needs of organization are always changing. So to reduce cost, low code, no code is there. So instead of you needing to employ a developer, right, a software developer that will come and build its lines, thousands of lines of code, right, to be able to get an application up and running, which can also take days, weeks, months, right? So with the help of low code, no code, you're able to, easily. So Power Platform makes it easy for organization to address most of these changes, right? If not all of them. In terms of if you look at the cost of building custom application alone and the time that it takes, and it's also very expensive. Not only do you need to factor in the cost of the initial custom development of the application, you also need to factor in the cost of maintaining such applications. Then to scale development efficiently, you have to meet the ever-changing needs. So the organization needs to be ready to meet those changes, how they develop solution. And this can be done by basically the citizen developers or the power users as a part of the development process lifecycle. And this can actually create what we call an hybrid development team, that empowers the entire organization to grow. So these are some of the value that Microsoft Power Platform actually brings to the table for us. So this is just giving an eye overview of some the Power Apps, right? So you can use the Power Apps to build and consume solutions for either web or mobile application. That's one interesting thing about the Power Apps, right? With the Power Apps, you're able to build a solution that can be on a normal desktop, right? If you have a tablet, you can build the solution to fit the tablet. You can also build it for a mobile devices, right? Just as just like having a responsive UI UX, right? For based on the device screen, whether it's a big screen or a small screen as small as a phone, you are able to build application or custom solution. So anything you're building a highly customized tax and role-based canvas apps with data from one or multiple sources. So you can all you just need to do is to connect this to a data source. You can connect to one data source, or you can even use multiple data source. And you can also generate an immersive model-driven app. So for Power Apps, there are two types of power apps. You have the canvas apps and the model-driven apps, right? So by the time we discuss in our class further with Mr. Stanley is going to explain those two for us. With Canvas apps, you're building it from scratch, while with for modern driven apps, you already have your data organization data, and you already have your business process already. So you're building an app on it. While for Canvas apps, you're building it from scratch. After you're done building it, you're now connecting to a data source. And with Power Apps, you can also consume fully accessible apps across web, like I mentioned, across mobile, even embedded or even a standalone on any device. So you're not actually limited to the kind of device that you can actually use for any of these applications. Now, one other important things that we have to understand. So in our introduction to Power Automate, Mr. Stanley, right? He told us that for Power Automate, you can automate and model business process across your applications as well as your services. So that's what one of the things that Power Automate does for you. So from simple automations to advanced scenarios with branches, loops, or more. So we started with simple scenario. So as you go on a journey, you begin to see a lot of other scenarios that are actually applicable that you can use the Power Automate to actually solve for businesses. You can trigger actions, you can grant approvals, you can even get notifications right from where you work. These are some of the business value that Power Automate provides, and you can also automate, be it a legacy on-prem applications or even a cloud-based application and services. So you're not limited to just cloud-based alone. Even though the Power Automate is a cloud-based solutions, you can connect it to your on-prem. You can connect to even legacy applications, right? And as well as again the cloud applications. Then the Power BI, I'm not going to talk much about it. So basically for Power BI is for your data visualization, right? So instead of using your Microsoft Excel or maybe any third-party application like the Tableau, right? So the Power BI is available for you to gain insights from your data, regardless of where they live. So whether the data is sitting on-prem, an SQL server on-prem, regardless, you can connect it to the Power BI. So the beauty of the Power Platform is that the number of connectors, there are over 400 connectors are available on the Power Platform itself. So you can connect, either you're connecting to a Power BI, you're connecting to a Power Apps, you're connecting to the Power Automate itself is able to use all those systems. So you can create an ad hoc analysis, you can even create a live dashboard, interactive reports that are easy to consume either on the web and across mobile devices. So the beauty of Power Platform is that you are not even limited to device. You can use it on the web, you can use it on your mobile device. And with this, you can even build smart applications by infusing insight from your data and also driven actions with the backing of Power Platform. So the Power Automate, because is also a member of the Power Platform, the Power BI can be connected to Power Automate. It can also connect it to a Power BI. And from there, you'll be able to have a solid solutions for your organizations. So then this is also part of the Power Pages. So with Power Pages, it's just like you're building like an intranet for your organization, right? It helps you to easily build websites with a ready-to-use template, or you can even create a customizable experience. You can design your pages with text, with videos, you can use imageries, you can use even business data, forms, and lists. So you can connect to your Microsoft list, you can connect it to the Dataverse itself, you know. So it gives developers ability to add deeper functionalities and capabilities to websites. So if you are not just a citizen developer, you're a pro developer, right? You can use Visual Studio Code, you can use the GitHub, you can use even the Azure DevOps, right? To add more functionalities to your applications. And it mitigates security concerns around website content through a role-based access control using the Microsoft Azure compliance and even the governance and capability. So that's the fourth one on the list. Then the Microsoft Dataverse is actually very, very interesting. Why? Because with the Microsoft Dataverse, you can build application on it. You can jumpstart an application using a standardized data model with a built-in business logics, security, and even integrations, right? So you already have your storage or where all your data are residing, right? The Dataverse. All you just need to do is to build an application on it. So any application you build on the Microsoft Dataverse, we call them the modern-driven apps, and you can extend to your own needs and also integrate across apps and services. And because the business applications is not just the Microsoft Power Platform, we have the Dynamics 365, either the CRM or the ERP part of things, right? You can easily integrate that also. So either your Dynamics 365, your Office 365, your Azure, even the for data from your partners too. So these are very, very powerful features that are available for us in the Microsoft Power Platform. Then I mentioned the Power FX earlier, right? So this is actually used throughout the Microsoft Power Platform. So in Power Apps, for example, you can use it's actually the fundamental language when you're building a Canvas applications. So it looks very close to the Excel formulas, right? Very close to it. Then in Dataverse I will mention earlier, you can use it to calculate, to build calculated columns in the Dataverse table, because Dataverse is actually like a table that has rows and columns. Then Copilot Studio, which is actually the Power Virtual Agent. Now I mentioned that you can use it to build your agents, chatbots, right? So the Power FS can be used when building topic in the Copilot Studio. So that's actually another feature of the Power Platform. So generally, if you want to improve your productivity with Power Platform M365, right? So some of the use case, I think some of them you took them in the last class. You can automate document approvals in SharePoint. You can create smart invoice processing solution based on incoming emails. You can even streamline day-to-day activities with connectors for programs like the Excel, the Outlook, right? And you can also improve daily employee productivity by automating repetitive tasks. This is one of the features that I personally actually like in the Power Platform, right? So helping me to what are the repetitive tasks I have? Okay, how can I leverage the Power Platform to automate each of the repetitive tasks that are actually available? And again, another thing is that Power Platform can work very well with your Microsoft Teams. It can work very well with your Microsoft Teams. Now with if you want to create collaborative solution with Microsoft Teams and Power Platform, right? It's very possible for you to create and share embedded custom agents that can help users to find answers to questions, right? So in your Microsoft Teams, you can create agents, right? That can help you as a users. You want to find answers to questions. Even in the Microsoft Teams, you can view and share Power BI analytic reports with team member without leaving team. So the Power Platform as a Power BI is inside the Microsoft Teams. So you don't need to leave your Microsoft Teams. From the Teams, you can actually, share Power BI reports. And you can also create and edit targeted applications and workflows in the Microsoft Teams. So your workflows are available for you even to use inside the Microsoft Teams. Then for the Dataverse for Teams, for example, now the Dataverse for Teams is actually like a built-in local data platform that empower users to build custom applications. You can use it to build a chatbot. You can use it to even build flow directly in Microsoft Teams with the use of the Power Apps, the Power Virtual Agents, or the Copilot Studio app, as well as the Power Automate. So these are some of the business benefits of using the Microsoft Power Platform with collaborating it with solutions in our Microsoft 365, right? So again, another solution I mentioned earlier is the Dynamics 365, right? So the Power Platform is directly, in fact, the Dynamics 365 CRM is built on Power Platform. So the CRM applications are actually built on Power Apps, either in the modern-driven apps, because those dataverse, because everything is speaking to dataverse, be it Dynamics 365 or Power Platform. So they are able to build up Dynamics 365 CRM on the Power Apps, right? So it helps you to assess the visualization capability of Power BI reports and analytics directly within the Dynamics 365 applications, right? So you're not touching Dynamics 365 in a particular series, right? Because you have a different community for that. You have a Dynamics 365. We even have a Power Platform community. Today was the Global Power Platform Bootcamp across the world. So it was a very interesting engagement today. So with that, we can also create intelligent custom agents that can be used to undo incoming support requests across multiple channels. You can have a bot conversation that can easily be escalated to a live agent as needed. So one of the use cases of Power Platform, which is the Copilot Studio, you can use it to build a chatbot actually. One of the interesting features. And if the chatbot cannot answer question, it has a functionality to actually escalate to a live agent. Now the Power Pages is also used to build a customer self-service portal that connects directly with the knowledge articles in the Dynamics 365, as well as other data that are stored in Microsoft Dataverse. Then another thing that's interesting about Power Platform is also connecting to Azure, right? So not just Microsoft 365, not just the Teams, not just the Dynamics 365. It also connects to our Azure services. Now, I mentioned earlier about the AI Builder, right? AI Builder is one of the interesting applications in the Power Platform. Probably if you have time, I'll show us the AI beta in the demo. If I have the license, I'll confirm. So you can actually extend the AI capability provided in the AI builder with machine learning options that are available in Azure to create intelligent solutions, right? And you can build applications that assess data in different Azure storage solutions. So if you look at the Azure storage here, coming from the power, so the powers and themes for the UX part of things, then this is a solution. They want to build an airline system. So already the architect has already, okay, we're gonna need the application insights and also the custom APIs, which is connected through the Graph APIs to the Azure storage, right? So these are a lot of things that can actually be used to connect a collaboration building on enterprise solutions with both Power Apps and Azure services. So again, it's always important to understand that custom APIs it's always there for interactions, right? So once you have a custom APIs that has been created, it can interact with your application and it can be used to consume stuffs from your Azure storage to the applications. And basically the AI beta is actually leveraging on the machine learning options that are available for us. So another feature that Microsoft introduced in the last 2 years Ignite was the Copilot, right? So you can actually create our apps, our automate using Copilot. All you just have to do is to describe the type of apps that you want to build. So you don't know what you want. You just want you know what you want the application to do for you, right? Just write your prompts. This is what I want. This the application I want to build. This I want the application to do, and it's going to give you a suggestion on what to include and even build it for you if you're okay with it. And you can embed Copilot controls in your applications to provide users with AI powered experiences. And you can easily create flows by telling Copilot what your flow should do. So in our Power Automate, there's Copilot available for us. In our Power Apps, Copilot is also available for us. So if you have to put everything together in terms of everything we've discussed so far, so Microsoft Power Platforms helps to add value to any organization by analyzing, acting, and automating, either by building custom applications in Power Apps, by automating process with Power Automate, by analyzing data with Power BI, to design and build enterprise-grade websites with Power Pages, then to build custom agents with Microsoft Copilot Studio. Let's go to let me stop the presentation and let's go to, I'll share my screen shortly so we can go to the admin center. Do you have questions so far for the chat? All right. So for those are the benefits of yes, I've not started sharing my screen. I'll start shortly. Share my screen again. All right, please confirm you can see my screen again.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
All right, thank you so much. So if you sign into so there are several ways you can access the Power Automate, right? If you sign into office.com and see your office.com, sign with your account, so you see the Power Automate here, or you can also go to the URL make.powerautomate.com. Right, I want us to, so this is a landing page. So you see the environment that you're currently using for your environment. So this is actually my default environment. Like if I go to other, I have other environments here that has other stuffs, right? So let's say I want to create an environment for a demo. All right, slow. Let me create. Okay, let me use the Power Pages developer. So you can actually create an environment by going to your admin center, the Power Platform admin center. So just like our M365, we also have the Power Platform admin center, admin.powerplatform.com. So maybe I want everything else due to be in a particular environment. So I'll just click on environment, new environment. So I can put in the name I want for the environment. So don't make it to be a managed environment. I'll leave it as default. Select none for these. So let me leave this as default. Get the feature early. Leave it. So I can select a developer environment here. I can just put something here as the purpose of the environment. Click on next. Leave it as default. Save. So the environment has been created here. So if I go back here and click on this, refresh. Okay. All right. You have to keep things clean, right? So there's a scenario that I'm trying for us to create, right? So there's an educational institution with multiple campuses and program, right? And the instructors and administrator of the organizations, they want to attend events and purchase items. So it's basically to track such expensive is actually very challenging. So what the campus administrator is trying to do is to modernize their expense reporting system by providing their employees with a digital way to report expenses, right? So it can either be through using combination of both Power Apps. Maybe you've created a Power Apps environment before, or you just want to use the Power Automate. So I've shown us the first way to access from here. Go to the app launcher. The Power Apps is here for you. Then the Power Automate rather is here for you. If you go inside the Power Apps itself, you can also access the Power Automate from the Power Apps too. So that's one of the beauty about the solutions. They are actually integrated, right? So I mentioned that, so this is actually how the Power Apps look like. I mentioned that the old name for Power Automate is Flow. So if you click on Flow here, Flow will take you to the Power Auto. So we are inside the Power Apps at the moment. Okay, it has taken us to Power Automate here. So that's another way to go into the Power Automate. So the fastest way obviously is make.powerautomate.com. So from here, we can, so I'm going to go back to the Power Apps here, right? So inside the Power Apps, you can see the flow here. So I'm going to select the flow like I did, then select a new flow here. So what I need is automated cloud flow here. I think what are the difference between the automated cloud flow, instant flow, and schedule flow? Does anyone know the difference between all those flow? You can drop it in the chat. Does it mention in the class, the last class? So when you talk about flow generally, right? We have the business process flow, we have the cloud flow and the desktop flow, right? These are the three primary Power Automate flow. So the business process flow, they're actually the flow that we use in the modern driven apps to help people get work done. So basically, they provide a streamlined user experience that leads people through the processes their organization has defined already for interactions that need to be advanced to a conclusion of some kind, right? Why for a cloud flow, they are the most useful anyway, and they begin with either a trigger, such as maybe I want to receive an email from a specific person, or there's a mention of my company on the social media. Once trigger, they also generally include one or two or more actions. Create a record in a different system, or send an approval request to someone. Then for the desktop flow, for the desktop flow is like the advanced part of those flow. Is actually the robotic process automation, RPA flow. So basically, it allows you to record yourself performing an action on your desktop or within a browser, and you can then trigger a flow to perform the process for you. And you can also pass data in or get data out of the process by letting you automate even the manual business process. I'll share a documentation with us to get more about those scenarios, right? So there are a lot of business scenarios that Power Automate can actually, help us to do it. So after selecting, so I'm going to put the flow name as an expense notification. Okay. So for the flow triggers, right, I'm going to use search for the database. Like so database, when an action is performed, an action is modified. So let me select when an action is added, modified or deleted, then rate. All right. So for change time, I'm going to select when an action is added here. Then for the table name, so I don't have table. So usually I'm supposed to select expense report table. Let me see if so I need to actually create this table in my dataverse, right? I need to actually create this table in my dataverse. I'm going to select any table here since I don't have expense report table. Then for the scope, I'll select organization for the scope. Then for the trigger steps, let me see the advanced options here. I think I might need to create the dataverse table first. Okay, let me still leave it like this. So let me leave that since they are not required. So for the next steps, so this is start to retrieve the expense report information, including the email address. So since I'm using the dataverse, I'll select the dataverse here. So search gets a row by ID. So this will actually require a premium. I don't have a premium. So for the table name, you can use user. So I'm just using since I'm not using a table I created, I'm just using the default table here because of the time. Let's see the activity I can select here. We use subject as a row ID. Selecting the new steps. So this is to send an email to the individual that submits the expense report, basically. Let me search for send email. Send an email. So let me just put my email address here. So this can be the subject of the email. So depending on what you want as a font, or you can do those settings. I'm going to leave them as default. So I just put there the person's first name. Can use a curly for this based on the person that is signing. So I don't want to go into the data vars because of time to start creating the table. So I just use the dummy table for this. So I can put report the total amount. So we take due date. So that will report and just put okay, see. Check this again. So the field of the first name is going to be there. Admin will select the same table that we created, but there's no table. The table created was just a demo. We didn't create that table. So just select what should be here. Then for the dates, highlight it. You look for the dates option here. Let me just put something default there. So total amount. Let's put something that looks like an amount there. Let me just put address for. So once it's done, you can use can save it. So you can always validate your flow by using the flow checker. So if there's any error here, it's going to pop up the error for you. It's going to pop up the error for you. So once it's done, you can test your flow. So because I've not created a trigger, right? So what by the time we discuss data verse, right? I don't want to actually go into data verse today. Be able to see where we'll create a table. So the table will bring where we'll bring all those information. I just use a default table, then use a default rows and columns here for this particular demo, right? You're going to create a table to see how it flows because you're supposed to understand dataverse, how you can create table in the dataverse because that's like the backbone of the Power Platform itself. So let's see if that will perform any action for us. So if you have question, you can ask your question because I actually have a different session planned. So it's only 1 hour. I said I'll be able to give for the session. So if you have questions, you can ask your questions. So hopefully wait for Mr. Stanley tomorrow to join us for tomorrow's session. So if you have questions, you can go ahead and ask your question. So it's taking a while to start. Perfect. Can you unmute your mic so let's see if they have questions to ask before I jump off of the call. It's taking a while for this to start.
If you have question, you could just raise your hand. We'll unmute your mic. If anybody has any questions or not.
Yeah, so it's not sending because I'm not actually the table I'm using is just a demo table, right? It's not a table I've created with the database. It's not a table. So there are some prerequisite steps that needs to be done before this particular step. This is like step 4, right? There are prerequisite steps that needed to be done, but because you've not done those parts, those steps are actually under Power Apps itself, not done those parts. So I just jump to this part. So let me check my email. It's supposed to actually show success for me here. Let me check my email. Maybe I have something here. It's supposed to show success here before it to confirm. It's still running here. So I'm just waiting for a question before I'll leave. So Mr. Stanley will continue the session by tomorrow. Then maybe before I jump up again, I will have done the first 4 steps. Then we'll not see this. Okay, Richard has a question. Can you hear me on Richard's question?
Okay, Richard, your mic has been unmuted. You can go ahead and.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Emmanuel. My question is, can the flow run without the get row by ID action? So let's say just the trigger and the email address, email.
Is it for this particular demo, right?
Yes, for this particular one.
So for this particular demo, there are like 4 steps to do. So I'm dropping a link in the chat, right? For you to see those 4 steps.
Okay.
So those 4 steps are like the prerequisite step before these particular steps. But because you've not done those before, they have to do with Power Apps, right? They have to do with Power Apps. Yeah, Tudor, you might need to go check previous recording, right, for the session. This is just like me doing like an high-level overview of Microsoft Power Platform. That's what I actually came to do today. I don't want to spoil the flow of Mr. Stanley. Yeah. So go through, if you go through what I drop in the chat, the link will show you some steps, right? So for those that already have an account, right? You can just practice some of those steps. They are step by step. You tell you what to do, what to click on, what to do, what to click on. Yeah. So if you're stuck, we can always discuss those steps.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So do we have more questions? I jump off. Do we have more questions? So there, I think you have the link to the YouTube channel where you can check all the sessions, right? For the previous session. So let me just share the playlist for the previous sessions that we had. So I'll share the playlist. So go through the first 2 sessions, right? So in the absence of no questions, I'll be handing over to Rafiah and Emmanuel. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's class.
Thank you very much, MVP. We appreciate like the insights and everything shared is very, very good. Thank you very much, sir. What an awesome section. Thank you. A round of applause for our MVP and our community lead. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for today. Thank you. So, Raf, I don't know if I'll be stopping the recording